We're now going to discuss selecting data using LOC and iloc. LOC and iloc are similar, except that LOC is going to use labels and iloc is going to use integer or index values, so the numbers, but they behave fairly similar. So let's look at our data set again. We have our Apple, Twitter, Amazon, Microsoft, and so on data with our various columns. If we want to select a single row by label, remember labels for LOC, we can say data.loc and pass Twitter. And here we have it. Here is the Twitter information, 0, 5, 6, and 7, revenue, employees, and cost of goods sold. Now, you might be wondering why we use LOC when there's other methods that are a little bit shorter, and it'll be clear in more advanced stages, but for now I just want you to be aware that these are other methods. Coming down here, just as above when we did not use LOC and iloc, double brackets will maintain that data frame. And visually you can see it here as well. Same information, just formatted and displayed in a little bit different way. We can use LOC to again select multiple variables or multiple values, Apple and Microsoft. And we can extend this to only specific columns and rows. So here we have Apple, Microsoft, revenue, and employees. So we have now done a little bit additional filtering. We want some very specific information, and we've been able to get that. Finally, you can use this with the same setup as before with colons. So we want all of the rows and only some columns. We would have a colon and then a comma. So this first bit of argument, just like above, is going to be for the rows. The arguments after the comma will be for columns. So we have all rows and just 2 columns. And we have data, reminding us what it looks like before we continue on. What we have here is we are going to use iloc, which again is just using the integers or the index positions. So if we want to select row 2 or location 2, which is the third row, because 0, 1, and 2. We want to select column location 3, which is the fourth column, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also the first and the second, so very specific observations, we can do that. All right, so we have row 2, 0, 1, 2, which is the third row, and then we're going to select the fourth column, the first column, and the second column. In other words, 3, 0, and 1. And you can look through and count these up and make sure they make sense, because it does get confusing since actual position 1 is index 0 and position 4 is index 3 and so on. But we can go ahead and do that where we have the row first and then the columns, row first, 0, 1, 2, and the columns where we first passed column 0, 1, 2, 3, so we got the 11. Then we passed column 0, which is here the 8. Then we passed column 1, which is the 9. So you can see how those match up. Similarly, we can select all of a row with those double brackets to maintain the data frame. We have here Microsoft and all of its information in data frame format. We can select row location 1 and 2 in specific column locations, double brackets again maintaining the data frame. And these are just random examples of selecting things. You're going to want to obviously decide what's important to you. So memorizing that this is how you select rows, locations 1 and 2 isn't important. What's important is you understand the steps that go into it. So we've selected some very specific data again. If we want to look at that data one last time, just to remind ourselves what it looks like, we're going to first select an index, and then we're going to go ahead and select some specific rows. So we're going to locate everything through Twitter, and then the employees column. We have everything through Twitter, so Apple and Twitter, and then just the employees column, 0 and 6. Again, single brackets, not a data frame. Double brackets, it would have been. So this is going to be our last most complicated selection. We're going to use iloc this time. We're going to select all rows and columns index 0 through 2. So remember, because we're using an index, inclusive, exclusive, right? We're going to select all the rows, comma, just the columns beginning through 2, so 0, 1, and 2, ending or excluding 3. So now once we have that selected, within that we're going to say only keep those observations where employees are greater than 5. So let's comment this second part out and just run it. And here's what we get, not including this data employees part. So we have all the rows, and then we have columns 0, 1, and 2. If you look at it, 0, 1, and 2, revenue, debt, and employees. That's exactly what we've gotten. Now if we include this second argument after the fact, now what it's going to do is say, here's the data we've gotten in the first part. We're going to go back into data, we're going to go to the employees column, and we're only going to keep observations that are greater than 5. So in other words, we're going to drop Apple. So this output, when I run it, should present what you see here without Apple in there. And that's exactly what we get. So again, it's just practice, there's repetition, it's you picking some random cells that you want to keep and figuring out, how do I keep those cells and not these other ones? But with that, you should be able to do problems 5 and 6 on the homework.